sewing just takes time. Shower curtains or bin bags, or in this case, t-shirts. So whether or not I can achieve the challenge in the day remains to be seen. It's not gonna happen this time though, because I've cut that bit off the paper pattern. Fiddly little things, both to eat and to sew apparently. I don't think I could get through a day of sewing without coffee. Hi, and welcome to this week's video. I am so excited that Sewing Bee is back on our screens. Hopefully you've been able to catch up on Tuesday's episode. If you haven't, maybe pause this video, go and catch up on the Sewing Bee and come back, because although I'm not going to talk through all the details of the bee, there will be some spoilers and I don't want to ruin it for you. So go and watch that first and then come back and check out my video. So Sewing Bee is back. I'm so excited. I absolutely loved watching this week's episode and meeting all of the new bees and seeing what they got up to in week 1. And my goodness, what a week it was. Now, for a full rundown of all the details of the week and the contestants and the challenges and how each contestant did, do head over and check out Sam's vlog, the lovely Sam. She is So Let's Sparkle with Sam, and I'll link her vlog in the description box below. So every week she goes through the Sewing Bee and talks about what happened and the different challenges and how everyone did, and it's wonderful to watch. So do give that a watch if you're interested in finding out more. What I thought I would do is to talk briefly about the challenge and perhaps try and sew one of the garments myself each week. Now, we'll see how this goes, because some weeks may be more tricky than others, but for this week, I thought I could give it a good go. Now, the first challenge the contestants did was like the technical challenge, where they get given a pattern and they all have to make the same pattern. And this week it was an A-line denim skirt. It was made from 7 panels and it had a button placket down the front with 8 buttons, and they had to make buttonholes in denim and top stitch everything in 3 hours and 15 minutes. It is one of the things that makes me hesitant to apply to be on the Sewing Bee is the time limit. I don't know that I could sew under pressure. Now, you will know if you watched last week's video, which was a week in my sewing life, I have recently sewn up the Sylvie skirt by Cinnamon Daisy Studio, and this is a really similar pattern to the one the bees created this week. So if you want to sew an A-line skirt with all of these different panels for yourself, I can definitely recommend the Sylvie skirt. So go and check out the video to see how I got on with that one. But I am actually wearing it today and I love this skirt. Now, the one the bees made had a flat waistband and it had a button placket down the front. Now, the Sylvie skirt has an elasticated waistband at the back and a flat waistband at the front, so it's super comfortable. And it does have a side zip instead of a front button placket. But I'm sure if you wanted to, you could put in a front button placket if that was how you wanted to style the skirt. Alternatively, there's another wonderful pattern by So Liberated called the Estuary skirt, which looks quite similar to the skirt that the contestants created. In terms of top stitching, there's no reason why you couldn't top stitch the seams of this skirt, although this one does have 13 panels as opposed to the 7 panels in the skirt that the bees made. But that was such fun watching that first challenge, having just made a very similar skirt myself. And like I said, if you watched my week in the life, you'll know it took me all week to put it together. Not because it's a particularly tricky pattern, it's a wonderful pattern, the instructions are fab. But sewing just takes time, especially when you're trying to fit sewing in around the edges of life. So maybe it's possible if you had a focused 3 hours. I don't know that I could do it though. So anyway, that's my take on challenge number 1, is the Sylvie skirt by Cinnamon Daisy Studio. A wonderful pattern. Please go and take a look if you want to make a skirt like the bees made for yourself. Right, challenge number 2 is always a wild one. That is the transformation challenge, where they have to take shower curtains or bin bags, or in this case t-shirts, and transform them into something different. And this week they wanted them to transform the t-shirts into anything else, another garment. So they had to change the silhouette of the t-shirt substantially. And I think they could choose 2, maybe 3 t-shirts to put together to make their new garment. I think this challenge would be so challenging under the time pressure. But I have again done something a little similar to this last year when the lovely Karen and Becky ran their Sew Upcycle challenge. I'll link their channels below as well. And I had an old cashmere jumper that unfortunately had stains down the front. It was a white jumper. and somehow, I think in the wash, you know, these things happen. So what I did was I actually dyed the jumper into this sort of hot pink colour, and I had another pink jumper that was also going into holes, so I used that for the lining, and I turned the jumper into this little girl's dress. It's actually the wattle dress pattern by Peony Pattern. So I guess you could argue I have not really changed the silhouette of the t-shirt hugely, because I've really just downsized it into a little sort of t-shirt dress for my daughter, but I just thought I would share that anyway. It's a bit of fun, and she's really enjoyed wearing that. It's a bit extra, isn't it? A cashmere dress for my little girl, but you know, I would rather have it being worn on someone than having to go out because it was so stained. But that looks so sweet with little tights and boots. In the autumn and even in the spring, it's quite a good one for one of those cooler days like we're having today. So that's my take on the transformation challenge for this week. Now, it has to be said, the bees did an amazing job. I was so impressed with all of their transformations. I definitely couldn't do that in the time, and the way that they changed the silhouettes by adding in sort of cutouts or ruching and channels down the front of them. Some of them put them into skirts, someone even made a bucket hat. It was amazing. Now for challenge 3, which is where hopefully things will get interesting here in today's video. Challenge number 3 was to make a day dress. Now, if you've been here for a while on my channel, you will know I love a dress. I love wearing dresses in the daytime, but I was curious about what the definition of a day dress is. And when I was looking it up, I saw all sorts of different definitions, perhaps a more casual office style dress, or a dress that's practical enough to be worn in the garden. I think those cover it quite nicely. It does seem to be one of those dresses you can wear on sort of a casual day around the house or just going out for coffee with friends. I think generally speaking they seem to have slightly higher necklines, or you might see a shirt style bodice. Sometimes they've got sleeves or slightly longer sleeves for that sort of sun protection when you're out and about during the day. And in terms of the length, they seem to be sort of between knee length and midi length. Not always, you do get maxi day dresses, but generally speaking, I think that's the difference, isn't it, between those cocktail dresses or those evening dresses, which seem to be much longer and have perhaps more plunging necklines. So when the bees got going, they had 5 hours for this challenge. Now it is almost 10 o'clock and I have to leave in about 4.5 hours to get the children, and I also have to cook dinner and do some chores and get things done around the house. So I definitely don't have 5 hours. So whether or not I can achieve the challenge in the day remains to be seen, but I'm gonna give it a jolly good go. Now I have had a head start because I did cut out my pattern and my fabric last night. So let's say I've already had about half an hour, 45 minutes of my allotted time, because I knew that I would be running short on time a little bit today. Now, before I get too carried away, let me talk patterns. Now on the sewing bee, there were 2 patterns that caught my eye and that I recognized instantly. The first was the dress that was made by Marcus. Now he made the beautiful Darling Rangers dress by Megan Nielsen, and he made this version here, which is just a lovely shirt dress with buttons down the front and this really pretty v-neck and then the knee-length skirt. And the other dress that caught my attention, because I have wanted to make it for a really long time, was the one that Alex made, which I think was the Merchant and Mills Alice and Hattie dress. Now I think she made the Hattie dress, which was the sleeveless version, and because I have this pattern, I think that's the one I'm going to try to make today. But I'm going to make the Alice dress. Now both dresses have a really interesting neckline with some darts around the neckline and then darts coming from the bottom of the bodice up, and then they have a gathered skirt. There are pockets that are optional. I'm not going to put pockets on mine, you'll see why in a minute. But I am going to add scallops to the hem in a nod to Megan Nielsen, because on her blog she has a fantastic tutorial for how to add scallops to a hem, and I've wanted to try that for ages too. So I thought, you know what, in for a penny, in for a pound, let's give it all a go. Now the fabric I'm going to be working with today is this fantastic rainbow checkerboard seersucker that was a Pigeon Wishes fabric that I bought, I think it may have even been 2 summers ago, and then I was just too scared. I didn't know what to cut it into, I didn't know what sort of would suit the fabric in terms of a pattern. I knew I wanted to make a dress, so I did buy 2.5 meters of this fabric, but I just ummed and ahed for so long about what to make that by the point I decided it was autumn and there was no point making it up. So it's just sat in my stash, and I would really like to get this out of my stash and into a dress. Now I did also see the lovely Sam, who is Sequin Girly Creates, share this fabric, and I think it was in her make 9, and I reached out to her and said, I've got that fabric too and I can't decide what to make with it. So we decided to collab on this one a little bit and see if we could encourage each other to get this sewn up into a garment. And I know that she has recently finished her rainbow seersucker checkerboard dress as well. So if you wait till the end of the video, I'll share a few pictures of what the lovely Sam has made with her checkerboard fabric, and I'll also pop a link to her channel below in the description box so you can go and check out her video all about the making of her checkerboard dress. So back to the Merchant & Mills dress. I am really excited to make this dress. I'm going to start working on the bodice this morning. My only fear was that it might be a little see-through. Because of the clear fabric around these rainbow squares, I was a little bit worried it might be see-through, but I've cut it out without a lining anyway. I do have a slip, so I could always put that underneath if I need to later on. But I'm going to get cracking because I don't have 5 hours and I want to get this made up today so that I can share it with you on Saturday morning for week 1 of the Sewing Bee, or my Sew the Bee with me videos. So I am stitching the bodice together at the shoulders. I have done the darts, not that you can see on the back, but I have done the darts. There are 2, 4, 6 darts, quite a few, but I love the way they look on the seersucker. Let me see if you can see this way. You can sort of see where they are, but I love the look of them anyway. I do have a thought, and that is, what do the bees do for drinks? I mean, I made myself a coffee. It's gone completely cold. I'm not rushing. I am trying to finish this beautifully because I do want to be able to wear it for a long time, but I mean, my coffee's gone cold because I'm just so focused on getting this sewn up. And you never see coffee where they're working. I mean, I guess you don't want it anywhere near the machine, so maybe it's just in a corner somewhere. But I don't think I could get through a day of sewing without coffee. Anyway, these and other random thoughts whilst sewing. I'm going to go and put the bodice together, and then, oh, let me get the facing. Here's the facing, which I've also done. So on one side of the back, I've put a little label. I thought this was appropriate, a little rainbow handmade label. That's from Kylie in the Machine. And then on the other side, I have put my rouleau loop on this side. Funnily enough, it matches. It was yellow just by chance. But that, when that gets turned out, that'll sit really nicely like that. And I really like how the orange matches there. So that will go on next. So shoulder seams of the bodice and pop on the facing. It's coming together quite quickly actually. Famous last words, shouldn't say anything. It is 10 to 11, so we're doing well, and we've almost got a finished bodice. I think what will take a while if I do them are the scallops. If I do the scallop hem, I think that's going to take the time, but so far it's a lovely pattern, great instructions, coming together quite quickly. Let me get on with some more sewing. Right, hopefully you can see we have a bodice, and I was a bit nervous about the armholes actually. They seem a little small and the sleeve piece seems very narrow. So I have actually widened the sleeve a little bit just because I'm a bit nervous about that, because I can always take it in if I need to, but I cannot add width and I only have scraps remaining of the fabric. So I did actually cut the sleeves out slightly wider, so we'll see how that goes. So, but it does fit. I really love the look of these darts. So the dress is meant to be pulled on over your head, so there is definitely room in here, but I think it looks really lovely, and I can always add a belt if I want you to cinch it in a little bit later on, but I think it's going to be such a fun one to wear. Glad to check the fit of this and know that it's working. Always a relief. It is 11:30, so I'm doing quite well for time. The next thing to add on is the sleeves. Now, they're a very simple sleeve piece, but quite long actually. They come down to about here, so I think I'm going to practice my scallops on the sleeves. I'm going to link to the Megan Nielsen blog post below because that is exactly what I'm following for this tutorial. I'm going to fold under the sleeve hem a little bit. I think it's about 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to sew on my scallops, and then I will stitch those in place and fold it over. So because there is a little bit of extra length in those sleeves, they should finish at a nice length and they should have scallops on the end. So I'm excited to give that a try, and if it works with the sleeves, then I can do it on the hem. But let's be positive. I'm sure the scallops will work just fine. I have made my little pattern piece and I shall have a go at putting that on the sleeve pieces now before lunch. So, it's 1:20. It has taken me quite a while, but I do have sleeves and they have got scallops on the hem, so I am so pleased with those. I think it just looks quite fun to have the curve of the scallop against the squares of the checkerboard pattern. Lots of fun, but it has taken me a very long time. So you'll see the bodice is still just a bodice. How many hours is that? Let's see. We started at about 10, 11, 12, 1. So 3.5 hours. So anyone thinking of going in the sewing bee and doing scallops might not be a wise idea in terms of time save. But yeah, about 3.5 hours, maybe add a half an hour last night for cutting out. So we're at 4 hours and I still have the skirt to do. So there are pockets to go in the skirt and then the skirt needs a scallop hem. I mean, I say needs, but I would quite like to give it a scalloped hem if I can. I am going to stop for lunch. I did consider carrying on because I'm kind of in the zone now and I'm so excited about seeing this come together into a finished dress. But I think I probably should stop. Dinner needs to be made because unfortunately we do all need to eat tonight. As much as I'd like to carry on sewing, I think my children will need to eat later on. So a pause will be taken now while I go and sort out the dinner and have some lunch. We then have some activities after school. I have to sit and wait for a bit, so I think what I will do is take the bodice with me because I actually haven't stitched the facing down underneath here. It does suggest that you stitch the facing down to the seam allowance inside the neckline here, and then I need to add the button on the back as well. So might just take a needle and thread with me this afternoon so I can just do a bit of hand stitching while I'm waiting for the children to do their activities. And then if I don't finish it before the school run, which I suspect I may not, scallops take a long time. Fiddly little things, both to eat and to sew apparently. If I don't get the skirt finished this afternoon, I shall be back in the sewing room this evening working away on it tonight. I do think I should get this finished in the day though. What a great pattern, really nice pattern, and if I hadn't done the scallops it would definitely be sewable in just a few hours actually. A lovely, lovely pattern. I will be making more of these. Anyway, lunch, chores, things to do. I shall return later on for some more Merchant and Mills fun. Hope you're enjoying this video. If you do want more of these Sew the Bee With Me videos, pop a comment in the box below and let me know if you enjoyed it and if you'd like some more of these, and I will hopefully try and do another one next week. It is half term, so depends what the patterns are that they share next week on the bee, but might be back again with you next week with another Sew the Bee With Me if you enjoy this kind of video. Alright, see you in a bit. Right, lunch has been had, coffee's been made, dinner's been made more importantly, and now I'm starting on the pockets. Right, confession time. I love a pocket, but I find them so annoying to put in. There's just so many little steps and then sewing around them and lining everything up. So silly, because actually they're so practically useful to have in a garment. It's not a big deal actually, but what little sewing tasks do you find really annoying? Leave me a comment below and let me know. So I have overlocked the edges of the skirt, I have overlocked the pocket pieces. Another confession, I may have cut the wrong line on my paper pattern piece. The skirt for the Hattie goes straight down and the skirt for the Alice goes down and then out to put the pockets on. It looks like a really interesting pocket construction actually, which I must try again next time. It's not going to happen this time though because I've cut that bit off the paper pattern. I did get awfully confused when I was cutting it out last night because I'm not sure that the pattern markings on the pattern were completely clear. So if you do make this one, don't make that mistake. I don't think it will matter awfully in the end. I'll just do the same thing I always do, put the pockets on, understitch them so that they flip to the inside and stay on the inside. I think it's going to be fine. It would have been nice to try a different pocket construction, but that's the way the cookie crumbles today, it would seem. So I have 20 minutes before I need to get on the bike and cycle off to get my children for the afternoon. So I think I can probably get these pockets put on and possibly the sides sewn up. And then that just leaves the scallops and attaching the skirt for this evening. So I think we'll get there. It's finished. It is the next day, but I did finish this last night. I came up for about an hour and a half, 2 hours to finish up the dress. So I think in total it probably took me about 6.5 hours to sew this dress, right from cutting out to finishing it. I do think though the scallops took a really long time, especially around the hem of the dress. I'll just show you that there, hopefully you can see them. That did take a long time, so I suspect if I hadn't tried to add scallops to the hem and to the sleeve hems, it would have sewn up in 5 hours or so, I think, for sure. It was a really lovely one to sew. Now in terms of the fit, it is an oversized dress. It's pulled on over your head, so the best thing about this dress is, apart from sewing on the button at the back, there are no fixings and fastenings, so no buttonholes, no invisible zip. But I do wonder if I sewed this one again, if I might size down at least one size, possibly even 2 sizes, and then pop an invisible zip in the back. Just because I think I do prefer a slightly closer fitting bodice, and I do love these darts around the neckline. So I wonder if I might bring in the side seams just a little bit and perhaps bring the shoulders up slightly, just for a slightly closer fit. Although what I think I'm going to do with this one actually is make some waist ties and to put some belt loops on the side of the dress, just to give me the option. I actually love the flowy oversized look for a hot summer's day. It's perfect, and this fabric is so nice and cool. I think this will be such a great dress in the summertime. But I'd love to give myself the option to draw it in at the waist if I would like to. So I do have some scraps, literally scraps left over, but I think I have a couple of longer pieces that I could perhaps piece together to make one long tie perhaps, and then I'll put these belt loops on the side, and then I've got that waist tie if I want to draw the waist in a bit. So I'll hold on to those scraps. But yes, this dress did come out of 2.5 meters. I ended up making a size 12. That is one size down from my waist and hip measurements. It fit my bust. I think it just fit my bust, but it is one size down from my waist and hip measurements, and I'm really glad that I did that, because I think that if I'd made the size 14 it would have felt too big. Size 12 feels perfect, but I think I will try and size down next time just to get a closer fit in the bodice. Having said that, these are the sleeves. I actually made those substantially bigger. The size 12 sleeve looked like it just wouldn't go anywhere near my bicep. I don't think my biceps are particularly big, but the size 12 sleeve piece looked tiny. So I used my Tilly and the Buttons Lyra sleeve piece because I know that fits me perfectly, and it's a similar satin straight sleeve for that pattern, and I made it quite a lot wider than the size 12 sleeve piece. So just a warning, if you're making this dress, check the size of the sleeve before you sew it up, as you may need to extend it. Now before I sign off, I do want to just remind you to pop across to Sam, who is Sequin Girly Creates, and see what she made from this gorgeous seersucker. I will pop in a couple of pictures here as a sneak peek for you all. She made the beautiful Nautilus top by Marilla Walker into a dress, and I love it. She's totally inspired me. I want to make one of those for myself now too. Now sadly the Marilla Walker Nautilus top is no longer available through her Etsy shop, but I'm sure if you pop over to Sam's video, she's probably got some suggestions of other patterns that you could try that are similar, or she might have found another place to get the pattern, I'm not sure. But do pop over and check out Sam's vlog and see what she made with this rainbow seersucker. It was such a fab fabric to sew up. I love a seersucker, and it was nice to have Sam to inspire me or motivate me to finally get this one out of my stash and sewn up into a beautiful dress. I hope you all enjoyed watching this video and that you have a happy week ahead full of lots of lovely sewing. I will see you soon in the next video. Goodbye!